RX Television on RxMuscle.com. This is Ask Dave, better known as hashtag Ask Dave, brought to you by Species Nutrition. Visit speciesnutrition.com. I'm your host, Sadiq Faruqi. This is your 30-minute question and answer show with Dave Palumbo. All your questions on diet, training, supplementation, IFBB pros, competitions, all the latest buzz in the bodybuilding world. And there has been a lot of buzz recently in the bodybuilding world. This past weekend, the confrontation between Louis Marco and William Bonac. Well, we actually just concluded a sit-down interview with Louis Marco on Live With. That is going to go up tomorrow on RxMuscle.com and the RxMuscle YouTube channel. And on a sad note, a couple of days ago, Sean Perrine, former editor-in-chief of Muscle and Fitness, passing away at the age of 51. Quite a shock to the bodybuilding world. Many perhaps not even sure that he was sick, but he did depart a couple of days ago, much to the shock of the entire bodybuilding industry. On that now, we bring in Dave Palumbo. Dave, a lot going on right now. Some sensationalistic stuff of what we saw overseas in Dubai, but then obviously a very somber note a couple of days ago, losing Sean Perrine.
Yeah, you know, I know Sean from back at Bev's gym. I've seen him a lot, obviously from the industry, you know, at all the shows. You know, we always chatted and shook hands. You know, I wouldn't say we were friends, but good friends, but we were certainly, you know, when we would see each other, we had a lot to talk about because we had a lot in common. And he's from Long Island. His mom, I used to see his mom at Bev's gym all the time, like every night, because we had the same training schedule late at night. I would come get to the gym probably 8, 9 o'clock, and she'd be there, and we'd always chat about Sean. And because Sean was living in California for a while, working for Weeder, then he came back to New York, and he was working in the AMI offices in Manhattan. And he was a guy who was back in the days training out at Steve Mihalik's Mr. America's gym, which was the hardcore haven back there. And everyone knew him, you know. He was just like one of these guys who just was a bodybuilding junkie. You know, he loved it, and he lived a lifestyle, and he was very healthy. You know, he's one of these guys that was like the picture of health. If you looked at him, you would never believe he was in his 50s. You would think he was in his 30s. I mean, he was just a youthful guy. He had a full head of hair. He had always ripped, you know. And when you hear something like that happen, you question your mortality because you're like, you know what? Here's a guy who didn't drink, smoke, do anything bad, and he dies at a young age like that. And, you know, so you start thinking, well, maybe we have no control over this, you know. And that's not obviously that's not the right mindset to take. Of course, you still want to live a healthy lifestyle because you don't want to get diseases. But, you know, when your time's up, I guess your time's up. And so, you know, I've talked to a couple of guys that, you know, my age, and we're like, you know, you got to appreciate every day we got because who knows how many you really do have coming up. And so that was definitely an eye-opener. You know, we've lost a lot of people in our industry, good people over the last, you know, couple months. And it's really a shocker. It's like I'm afraid to get a phone call from anyone anymore. I really am.
So again, we pass our warmest wishes to Sean Perrine's family and, of course, everybody over at AMI Weeder. Let's get to the questions. Again, if you want to join us, you can join us on Instagram, on our Facebook page. You can tweet using hashtag AskDave, or, of course, in the Muscle Central forum on RxMuscle.com. First, we go to Paul Falbo. Dave, when you did behind the neck shoulder press, was it in the Smith machine or was it with the barbell? Which one is better in terms of building massive delts?
I used to do behind the neck presses with a barbell, you know, free weight. I did all free weight exercises back in the day. When I was first growing, I did very few machines. And I built myself up to 315 behind the neck for 6, you know, solid reps. I would lower that bar and touch my traps with it, which may or may not have destroyed my shoulders. I don't know. I'm sure it didn't. It contributed to my early demise of my shoulder joints. But I'll tell you one thing, it built huge delts, and if you could shoulder press behind the neck, you know, even 225 with good form for 6 reps, you're going to have big shoulders. There's no doubt about it. There's no cheating. There's nothing that's going to help you push that weight up. Yeah, your triceps are involved a little bit, but that's a lot. That's all delt, and I just felt that was the best mass building exercise. I like that more than dumbbell presses, believe it or not.
Let's go to Eddie Guzman at 7. Dave, is receptor saturation proven to be fact or myth? Hence, can you stay on a compound long-term, 20 to 30 weeks, besides test, and still make linear progress with slow increases on the dosage?
I think at some point your receptors, stop responding as well. Because let's face it, your body is smart. Your body knows what it wants, and it knows that when receptors are being flooded with a drug, a substance, a hormone, and anything, protein hormone, it gets overstimulated, and that's not good for the body. So what the body does to protect itself is it takes away these receptors. So you can have tons of drug present, but if they can't bind to the receptors, your body can't do anything. Now, when we talk about protein hormones, we're talking about receptors on the cell membrane, okay? When we talk about steroidal compounds, we talk about receptors on the nuclear membrane, inside the cell on the nucleus, because that's where they bind to affect how the body, engages in protein synthesis. So if you stay on the same stuff all the time in high amounts, eventually, your body just downgrades a little bit and it doesn't respond as well. That's why when I tell guys to go off at the end of the year completely, it's to kind of reset these receptors, because what happens is when you take away the drug and now there's nothing there, what your body invariably thinks is it doesn't have enough receptors, so it starts making more of them, so that when you do go back on, now you're going to respond again. So it's like a game that you're playing with your body and you're trying to trick it. Once again, if you do the same thing all the time, you get the same results. And they slow down and slow down and slow down and slow down, and eventually you don't respond at all.
Boat Garrett, I requested special blood work from the VA to get my testosterone levels checked, but that doesn't check for other hormone levels. What other blood work tests would I benefit from, knowing since I need to specifically order my doctor's individual tests?
I give out a list of blood work that people can ask their doctors for and just kind of forward to them. And it involves a metabolic panel, complete metabolic panel, which does your liver, your kidneys, I also request that people get done a CBC, which is complete blood count. That's red blood cells, white blood cells, platelets. What's the else? We do thyroid function test, which is TSH, T3, T4, reverse T3. I recommend getting C-reactive protein, which is total body inflammation. Test all your hormones, testosterone, estrogen, DHT, cortisol, prolactin. It's good to test. I sometimes recommend also DHEA. You want to test your vitamin D3 levels, your vitamin B12 levels are important, which is also known as cyanocobalamin. And hemoglobin A1C, which is a measure of what your blood sugars are running on a 3-month average. Very important. If that's high, we got to look into things. Also, what I've recommended lately, and I've been finding to my dismay and horror, that people are running high blood sugars in the morning, fasting blood sugars. Go out to Walmart, $9. You can't argue with me for $9. $9, you get a blood sugar testing monitor there, and you buy another for $9. You buy the test strips and test your blood sugar first thing in the morning. It should be under 90, and then 2 hours after your meals, it should be under 130. And if you're good like that, great. If you're running high, then that's something we need to address as well. So once again, blood work, you want to get as comprehensive a panel as your insurance will cover. I guess you don't want to start laying out hundreds and hundreds of dollars out of pocket, but it's a good idea to kind of check out what I just mentioned. Those are the majority of the tests. If you want more information, you can email me directly.
MSensi46, best supplements to take around morning fasted cardio.
Well, if you're doing fasted cardio, it means you're not eating anything. So you probably don't want to take anything. I know people that like to get up and take a cup of coffee, before they do cardio, just to wake up a little bit. I don't have a problem with that necessarily, but really, fasted cardio really means nothing in your body. So just go do your cardio, burn your stored body fat as much as you can, and then shower up and eat your breakfast. That's probably the best way to go.
Marco's Joel Fit, your opinion on switching compounds every 4 weeks to stop the body from quickly building up a tolerance to them and having to taper up dosages?
You're really not going to build up a tolerance in 4 weeks. You got to remember, a lot of these compounds, these long-acting ones, they don't really even start working for 3 weeks. So I like to stay on compounds anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks and then change them up.
Ken Hudziak Jr., please ask Dave what he thinks of this new fad diet called the carnivore diet, where you eat primarily meats and drink only water, no fruits, no vegetables, no carbs, etc. Is that a ripoff of keto?
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you're eating fatty meats, it's kind of like a ketogenic diet in a sense. The problem is that the fat sources are all coming from pretty much the same thing, and they're all a lot highly saturated fats, and that's not going to give you the essential fatty acids you need, the polyunsaturates. It's not going to give you enough monounsaturates, which we know are the best burning fuels. So to me, it's too, once again, whenever you do these extreme type diets or extreme type programs in general, you're usually restricting something in your diet. And even if you take a fish oil supplement, that's still not going to be quite enough for what you need. So I would say I don't go along with that. And I think eating all red meat is not good for your body. It raises the acidity level of your body tremendously. Red meat is very difficult to digest, and it's difficult for your kidneys to deaminate all those extra protein and amino acids that are going to be in the bloodstream. So I would say that's probably not the best diet to do.
Saravo, man, my question is, will eating 8 ounces of a packet tuna every day put me at risk for mercury poisoning, and are there any supplements that can prevent mercury poisoning?
What was the food he was asking about?
Packet tuna.
Oh. The tunas you get in the albacore tuna you get in the packets is not as high in mercury as like the big eye or the bluefin tuna, which you get on a sushi. They're kind of smaller fishes. What I started doing, because I was a tuna fanatic, and I started doing the salmon pouches. So you can get wild salmon pouches from Bumblebee or Chicken of the Sea. It tastes almost like tuna. I think it's actually better than tuna. It has a little bit more flavor to it. They're about the same price, and you don't have to worry about mercury. There's no mercury in salmon, so I think it's a better way to go.
Morgan Mac Bodybuilding, Dave, most effective and safest way for females to cycle both Anavar, Primobolan, and Winstrol together for pre-contest?
Unless you're doing women's bodybuilding, you probably don't need all 3 of those drugs. It's pretty strong. I mean, for women's physique, Anavar and maybe a little Winstrol is probably okay. Once again, I highly recommend, and when I say highly recommend, it means that you should go do it. Because I don't give advice, that's not necessary. I don't waste people's times. Go buy the Roy tests on the DavePalumbo.com website and test these compounds. Okay? As a woman, okay, if you're taking fake Anavar that's actually Dianabol, you're going to get really bad side effects. Likewise, Primobolan is the most faked drug out there now. Most injectable Primobolan is test propionate. Not a good idea if you're a woman to be taking that. So you definitely want to test these compounds. I would suggest, for women who are looking, like I said, to compete in women's physique and put some more muscle on, 10 to 20 milligrams of Anavar a day, no more than 10 milligrams of Winstrol per day, because Winstrol is stronger than Anavar and has more side effect potential. And as far as injectable, Primobolan goes, if you could find real Primobolan, 25 milligrams a week, up to maybe 50 milligrams a week is more than enough. If you could find the Primobolan acetate tabs, those are actually really safe because they don't really stay in your system that long. So you're going to get much less side effects with the acetate tabs. Even 25 milligrams a day would be adequate for a woman.
Instant HL Clips, what's a good sugar intake daily for bodybuilders on gear? Most of us work 8 to 10 hours a day. It's hard to eat 6 to 8 clean meals. Bodybuilders always talk about eating clean, but most of them don't have a job, so it's pretty easy for them to maintain that diet.
Well, if you ask me what the ideal sugar intake would be, it would be 0, That's not saying that you shouldn't eat carbs. I'm saying you shouldn't be eating sugars. Now, if you're having a piece of fruit here and there, I wouldn't worry about it. But by and far, I would try to eat starchy, complex carbs, rices, potatoes, quinoa, a little pasta maybe, oatmeal, cream of rice. These are much better choices, much better options. What I would do is I would eat for breakfast, if I'm going to have oatmeal, cream of rice, or cream of wheat, I'm not going to put sugar in there to flavor. I'm going to put like an artificial sweetener in there. I'm not a big guy on sugar. I believe sugar is way more dangerous than any other food out there that you could possibly eat. Okay? It screws with your insulin levels. It screws with insulin sensitivity. It raises HDL cholesterol levels in the body. It's just bad for you. You know what I mean? That's not to say that once a week you can't have an ice cream sundae on your cheat meal if you want, but I'm just saying on a regular basis I wouldn't be consuming extra exogenous sugar.
Enhanced skateboarding, could you talk about what happens to male hormone levels after climax and how this can affect gains and biochemistry. Do bodybuilders training for a show limit or eliminate their sexual activity?
Yeah, no, having sex is not going to affect your body's ability to put muscle on or recuperate from your workouts one bit whatsoever. You can have sex 5, 6, 7 times a day. It's not going to make a difference, other than maybe fatiguing you a little bit. Now, after you have an orgasm, your prolactin levels go up very, very, very quickly, and that's what the cause of the latency period is. Why guys can't have one orgasm after the other. It prevents that from happening. Maybe it's an evolutionary mechanism to preserve, your body from releasing too much sperm, because that kind of waters down the sperm content, and then you don't become as fertile. As far as though the act of having sex, they found through studies that the actual act of having sex is not going to reduce your aggression. It's not going to reduce your testosterone level in your body whatsoever. Okay, the old boxing, adage, don't have sex, 6 weeks before a title fight or a fight, like Muhammad Ali used to do, is more for, they say it builds up aggression in the sense that, sex relaxes you a little bit, and maybe, it makes you irritable. I don't know. I don't think any athlete nowadays abstains from sex because of that anymore. That was like an old wives' tale that guys used to use back in the day.
Or like Mickey from Rocky, that women weaken knees.
Right. Women weaken legs is actually the quote. I've seen the movie 600 times. But yeah, I think he meant more so the drama of women, not necessarily the having sex with women.
Again, you're watching Ask Dave on RxMuscle.com, brought to you by Species Nutrition. Reminder, tomorrow, live with Louis Marco, he gives his side of what happened in Dubai, being approached by William Bonac. Let's go to Jacked and Juicy. Dave, I know it's important to change workout plans after some time to stimulate new muscle gains. Would you pick totally different exercises, or is it okay to change only the rep range?
What I usually do is, I always stick with the basics. I always did, the bench press, whether it be usually the incline bench press, squats, deadlifts, bent rows. Those are the staples that you really can't get rid of. What I would do is what I would try to do every workout is I would change one exercise. So let's say I did incline bench press, flat dumbbells, and flies, flat dumbbell flies, one workout. Okay. Next week when I did chest, maybe I would start with, flat, bench press, and I'd go to incline dumbbells, and I would go to, cable crossovers. So I would change around the exercise order. I would change around, which exercises I did. I think that's a smarter way to be, because let's face it, the mass building exercises are the mass building exercises. You don't want to eliminate them. Every once in a while, maybe I felt burnt out because I squatted every single week. I would skip maybe squats one week, and I would do hack squats and leg press and maybe some lunges, but that might be every 6 weeks just to give my body a break. You got to use your instincts a little bit, but the bottom line is that the basic mass building exercises never change. And if you want to build muscle, that's what you got to do.
Macking 1977, Dave, for optimal weight loss, which do you prefer? I have to be at work early in the morning, so my options are the following, and they're limited. Train at 5 a.m. on an empty stomach, then do 1 hour cardio around 5 p.m., or 1 hour cardio at 5 a.m. on an empty stomach and train at around 5 p.m.
Yeah, I like the second option. I like to get the cardio over with because you're really not exerting very much anyway. So do it on an empty stomach, maximize your fat burning, then do your weight training later in the day after you've had several meals in your system already and you feel nice and carved up, you're well hydrated, you'll tend to have a better workout.
Before I ask the question, we kind of went away from the I hate this shows, and they were classic. So I'm thinking, Dave, at some point, maybe starting next episode, we're going to bring them back and we're going to incentivize them, free species giveaways for the best I hate and for the best overall question. What do you say?
Yeah, sure. Why not? Let's do it.
All right, Jim.
I like creativity.
There you go. Jim Rat Hub, hate the show so much I'd rather stick my wiener in a meat grinder than listen to another episode of Ask Dave. Does Tyler behind the scenes probably like, what is this? You're gonna have to explain it to him at some point. Does your contest prep package include peak week changes, or is that extra?
Is my what? Say it again.
Your peak week package, does it include your contest prep package, does it include peak week changes, or is that extra?
No, yeah, my contest prep package, which is 16 weeks, 16 to 18 weeks of contest coaching, includes everything. So, it includes from the moment we start to the moment you get on stage. I will walk you through the entire process. And, certain people need more care than others. Some guys send me updates almost every day because their body's not changing and I need to make more changes. So it basically entails me walking you through the entire process right through the show, and then even giving you like a little post-show how to taper off everything and make sure you get your body back to normal.
Jimmy McFinn has a question about blood glucose monitors. Before I ask a question, what you were referring to, which was like $9.99 from Walmart, you were talking about blood glucose monitors?
Yep. Yep.
Right.
They're super cheap now. They used to be very expensive. They used to be in the hundreds of dollars. Now, $9. $9 at Walmart. How could you not test your blood sugars for $9? It's a no-brainer.
So Jimmy McFinn wants to know how accurate they are, that he did back-to-back tests and got 115 ml-DL and 105 ml-DL. Also, how much of an effect? Actually, let's go with that question. Okay. I guess the question is the accuracy of the blood glucose monitors.
They're pretty good. I mean, I have someone also who sent me blood. They said, I bought 2 blood glucose monitors. One in the morning gave me a fasting of 115 and one gave me a fasting of 105. And I said, he's like, which is right. I mean, that's going to make a big difference. I said, well, no, they're both high. So you have high morning blood sugars. That's not good on both versions. So why one's a little different than the other, it's a pretty precise science, but sometimes you have a little anomalies. Once in a while, I'll get a whacked out value, and I'll retake it, and then I'll get the value I expected. So, I mean, nothing's perfect. So if you get a weird value, retake it. That's what I always say. And but they're pretty damn accurate, these blood glucose monitors.
Zorro5144, Dave, we can all do shoulder press, etc., but what can we do to maintain a healthy shoulder? I've heard of, he calls it rotary cuff, so I don't know if he's referring to rotator cuff.
Rotator.
I've heard of rotary cuff exercise, but no reliable videos or info available. What can you advise?
Yeah, I used to do a lot of rotator cuff exercises like before my workout to warm up the rotator cuff. Unfortunately, I have such bad shoulders now. I don't think I could do them. Maybe actually with my new shoulder, I could do a little video and show you the different exercises that you can do to strengthen the rotator cuff, which is important. Obviously, taking a joint repair supplement like Arthrolyze 5 pills twice a day is going to give you the right raw materials to help repair the shoulder. You want to make sure you stretch, before you train that shoulder, so you don't tweak something. And, of course, if you do these rotator cuff exercises that are out there, the one like this, with a very light dumbbell, what you'll find is that you're going to strengthen those little muscles in there. You're going to be much less likely to pull them. Luckily, in my career, I never really hurt my rotator cuff. My joints were terrible, but my rotator cuff was strong. Even when they did my left shoulder replacement, they thought usually they find a ripped up rotator cuff. They're like, your rotator cuff was fine, which made the probably the replacement surgery that much easier for me. So some people have no joint and no rotator cuff, which is a disaster, of course.
Eric Santiago 81, I prefer using longer chain esters due to less injecting. For pre-contest, can I use right through the show, or should one stop 1 to 2 weeks before the show?
I always say if you look great, a week or 2 out, don't change anything. Why would you? So I always keep it in. Once again, sometimes I have my guys stop their shots, 2-3 days out, just so they don't have any welts where they take the injection sites. But if the person who's using it doesn't welt up like that, then I have them go right through the show. Like I said, if you're looking good taking the stuff, why would you stop it?
Miguelito Hudson, if someone has a blood disorder that causes the blood to clot easier, which anabolics would you absolutely avoid, or would you avoid them altogether? And the blood disorder is controlled by small dose of aspirin. Well, he says, I guess his is controlled by small dose of aspirin. So I guess the question is, which anabolics would you avoid, or would you avoid all of them altogether?
Anabolics don't make the blood clot more. As a matter of fact, they make it less likely to clot. But what they do is they increase the thickness sometimes of blood. You produce more red blood cells. And when you produce more red blood cells, invariably you can have clotting issues. Now, if you're taking a high milligram fish oil product like Omega-Lyze, which is 3 grams of fish oil, 2,600 milligrams primrose oil. That has an anticoagulant effect. Likewise, vitamin E does the same thing. So if you're taking your vitamins and your essential fats, you probably don't have to worry too much about blood clotting unless your hemoglobin and hematocrit were like through the roof. And if in that case, I would probably go and donate a pint of blood.
Muscle by Mona, good friend of the show. Dave, what muscle gain results can a veteran gear user, 40 years old, male, expect from a test-only cycle, 900 mg per week, even worth it without adding another compound?
Well, if it's your first cycle, you're going to get great results. If it's your second or third cycle, you're going to get great results. If it's your 900th cycle, okay, you might just kind of, remain the same. It depends, once again, where you're coming from. If you just came off a massive cycle and then you said, I'm going to go down to, 800 milligrams a week or whatever, 600 milligrams a week as maintenance, you probably won't gain anything. But if you haven't been on anything and you just start taking 600 milligrams a week, you're going to put on some good size. So it depends on, what the level of experience of the user is.
Earlier in the show, we had a question about the carnivore diet. CRU Jones wants to know your thoughts on misinformation on meat. In 1 week, I saw a documentary claiming that meat is a class 1 carcinogen and is worse than smoking. I also listened to a podcast with a doctor who eats a meat-only diet. I'm so confused.
I don't think that eating all meat all day long can be healthy for you. I don't, not that I'm trying to give vegan gains any credit. That's another whole story. But no, I think that, meat in moderation is good. Some of it's good, too much, no good. So, but that's the case of everything in life. If you overdo anything, it's no good for you. Are artificial sweeteners good for you? Probably not if you're taking them in all freaking day long in huge amounts. But if you're using them in moderation, I'm sure they're fine for you. I've used them for years, and there's multiple people use them for years, and they have no problems. But when you do things in excess, that's when you have problems. So would I recommend an all-meat diet? Absolutely not.
But what about as far as on the other side with meat being quote-unquote classified as a carcinogen?
I would not agree with that. Now, what I will say is if you cook meat too much and you char it, that charring has been shown to be carcinogenic. So you don't want to eat charred, or I know there's a lot of people out there that love the barbecued, they love eating barbecued food where it's really charred and something like that. They've shown that has carcinogenic properties to it, because once you burn a meat and make it to turn it into like coal essentially, it changes the properties of the meat. So once again, you're better off undercooking a little bit. I'm a medium rare type of guy myself. The less cooked it is, the better. But you could eat something that's well cooked, just not burned. Burned is where you have the problem.
Jeff Nicar Fitness, Dave, do you think wearing a weight would hurt a very small umbilical hernia because of the increased pressure, or prevent it from getting worse?
I'm assuming you mean wearing a belt, not a weight, or weight belt maybe?
That's okay.
That'll
be the assumption, yeah.
Yeah, as long as it's not too tight and digging into that hernia, I think you should be fine. I don't think it's going to if anything, it's probably going to preserve it, because think about it, if the hernia is a hole in the sheath of your intestinal wall, and where your intestines can pop through, okay? And a weight belt kind of supports that. So you could, so I think a weight belt is probably a good idea if you have a hernia. Just make sure the buckle or something like that isn't digging into the actual hernia itself.
Susie Blaylock, good friend of RxMuscle, the price of regular eggs is so low, is it okay to use whole omega eggs and cheap eggs for egg whites?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people use liquid egg whites in containers, but I always, back in the day when I ate a lot of eggs, I would do the omega-3 eggs for the whole eggs, and then for the whites, I would buy like the regular ones, and I would just crack those, because it's not the white that's special, it's the yolk that's special in the omega-3 egg. Why? Because instead of feeding the chickens corn, like most people do to fatten them up, these chickens are fed flaxseed, and the flaxseed is obviously a precursor to omega-3 fats, and then the chicken turns them into these DHA, EPA intermediates, and then that gets deposited into the egg yolk. So it's the yolk that makes those eggs unique.
Take a couple of quick questions. Prime time, Dave, your best advice if you've had a terrible post-show rebound, 40 pounds of fat and water from binge eating, and you're feeling like eating just aren't the same anymore. I took a couple of days off from training and got back into it, and then it just feels like I hit a wall shortly after.
You know, overtraining is a weird thing because you could think, hey, I'll take a week off and I'm going to be all okay. Once you hit that point of overtraining where you feel it and you're not recovering well and you have low energy and your resting morning heart, your pulse rates are up, it's not going to take a week of taking off from the gym or 2 weeks to get it back. It might take you a month or two before you feel normal again. So the key is don't allow yourself to go into that overtraining state. Take days off from the gym. No one can train 7 days in a row and recover properly. Okay? I don't care how genetically gifted you are, it's impossible. When you subject your body to that, it will rebel against you and it won't respond.
Final question, Boat Garrett, Dave, your favorite thing to do to relax after training when you weren't working and had time for relaxing hobbies?
I would take a nap. My routine was I would go to the gym, I would train a couple people in the morning, and then I'd go meet my friend Doug Wentz. He would drag me to the beach if it was the summer. If not, we would eat breakfast or lunch, whatever time it was, together. Then we would go to the gym. We would train hardcore. I'd have my post-workout shake. I'd drive home. I'd go lay in my bed. I'd sleep for anywhere from 20 minutes to 60 minutes. Sometimes even up to 90 minutes if it was a big leg workout. And then I'd get up and I'd feel completely refreshed. I'd have my meal and I would, finish out my day. So really I didn't do anything. I just kind of did chores and, kind of just relaxed as much as possible. At night I would go on the computer. Back in the day it was dial up. You didn't get very much done, but I would answer the emails that I did have and I'd watch a little TV and go to sleep. Nowadays I don't have 2 seconds to spare. I wish I could go. Now I'm wishing I could go to bed early. And I'm trying to bang out emails late at night because I can't catch up during the day, especially like on our Tuesdays and Wednesdays. We do a lot of our recording. Those days I get super backed up. So, if you have spare time and you're trying to maximize muscle gains, you want to keep stress levels down. You want to relax. You want to stay off your feet as much as possible. I had an old saying, walk instead of running. Okay, stand instead of walking, sit instead of standing, and sleep instead of sitting. So, the less you do, the better you grow and recover.
I lied. There's one more question.
Okay.
It's a good one. It's from Fishfort69. I hate this show so much. I would rather take shoulder injection and training advice from Kenny O'Neill, a.k.a. Synthol Guy. Speaking of shoulders, why is the shoulder boulder only obtainable while on gear? I've heard there are more androgen receptors in the traps and delts, but is there any actual scientific study to prove that, or is it bro science? Could it be while on gear that there is an increase in glycogen stores?
And what's the term they used?
Boulder shoulders.
Oh, I think that's just a made up term. That's what the magazines used to say when they used to feature guys doing their shoulder workout. Get your boulder shoulders, it's just a term. I mean, look, to put size on your shoulders, you have to eat, you got to train hard, and you got to recover. And that's the trick. The way muscles grow is they grow long first, and then when they can't grow long anymore, they start to round off on each other. So if you want to get huge round delts, you just got to get bigger. And at some point down the road of training, your body will start rounding off its delts. That doesn't just happen overnight. Now women can get that look faster because they don't need to get as big to get that rounding off effect. So the longer your muscle and the bigger you are, tall-wise, lengthwise, limb lengthwise, the longer it'll take to get that round cap delt. But the bigger you are, okay, the more impressive that delt will look once it does round off. And so once again, you got to be patient. It doesn't happen overnight. It could take 2 to 5 years before you start really getting rounded off deltoids.
That's going to do for this episode of Ask Dave, brought to you again by speciesnutrition.com. Reminder, tomorrow afternoon, live with Louis Marco, his account on what went down with William Bonac in Dubai. For Tyler Shore and Dave Palumbo, I'm Sadiq We'll see you next time.